Blame is an easy way to escape accountability. And you find that a lot these days, right? You find that a lot these days. You find that a lot in the media. You find that a lot in between politicians. You find that a lot in this world in general. And it's an easy way to escape accountability. And most importantly, it's an easy way to distract ourselves from what we need to see within ourselves, each of us, right? Not only do we blame other people, we blame ourselves sometimes, right? Blaming ourselves is another easy way to escape uh could it be another easy way to escape accountability. I'll get to that later. But it's easy much more easier to blame other people because then we don't want to take accountability for anything. We don't want to take ownership for anything because taking ownership for anything feels like an extra weight, right? Most of us don't want to carry, right? So we project that weight onto other people, right? And we don't recognize what we need to recognize within ourselves, right? And it becomes a loop, right? It becomes a loop, right? Life is all about learning, right? Life is all about learning and growing as a soul, right? Life is about living, right? And when we cannot recognize what we need to recognize, we can't live our full potential, right? We can't live our full potential, right? Because if it's always about someone else, right? If it's always about someone else, then what is the point of me putting in any effort into living this life, right? It's always got to be someone else's effort, right? It's always it has to be someone else's life that is interfering with your life, right? But there's always two parts to every story, right? There's always a part that you play. There's always another part that plays into a situation, in any situation that is neutral, right? I'm all about neutrality, right? There's always a part that each of us plays. There's always a part that's a neutral component to a situation, right? And we have to recognize that, right? And when we blame, it just becomes a loop, like I said before. You blame someone else, that person's going to blame something else, and it's just going to be a circulation of blame, of blaming, right? A circulation of blaming because it's easier and more comfortable and not taking the weight of accountability, right? Now I'll talk about blaming yourself, right? Where we tend to think that everything has to be blamed for, right? So the reason why we blame others is because we don't want to blame ourselves, right? Because the worst thing to us is to blame. The worst thing to us is to blame ourselves, because then you have to take on that weight, and then others can point the finger at you, right? It's all a game. Blaming is all a game. Blaming is all a game, right? Who could be blamed for the most loses the most. So why should I take the blame for anything? I have to find the ways to escape that blame. And these is ways to blame someone else. Because taking on that blame carries a lot of weight, right? And it is true. Taking on that blame carries a lot of weight, right? But I always say blaming is shouldn't be the goal. Blaming someone else or even blaming yourself. Blaming yourself is not doesn't it doesn't take away the accountability, right? Because when you blame yourself, it could bring guilt, right? And that guilt could weigh on you, and when it weighs on you, you that weight could affect you from actually recognizing what you could take out of any situation, right? You see a lot of people who get blamed for something, or they blame themselves for something, and they carry that with them for so long, right? They carry that with them for so long. They carry that, they carry what they did 5 years ago because they feel like they they feel like they're at fault. They feel so much guilt, right? They blame themselves for that situation, even subconsciously. Even those that blame others, they subconsciously carry that blame as well, right? So I always believe that all forms of blaming, all forms of blaming is the incorrect way of going about things, right? I feel like blaming is just it's another way to polarize situations, and nothing wrong with polarizing things, but blaming anybody for anything, even yourself, is, I feel like, is the wrong way to do things. I think the best way to do things is to look at situations, any situation in life, in a neutral lens, right? Everything in life to me happens for a reason, for you to learn and grow. So just recognize that. When you recognize that, there is no blaming other people, there is no blaming yourself. You drop the blame within yourself, you drop the guilt within yourself, you drop the shame within yourself, right? Recognize the challenge, right? First of all, we see problems in a certain way, right? We see problems in a certain way where someone is responsible for that problem. I don't want to deal with that. Or we feel responsible for that problem, and it carries on. Like I said, it carries on with us, right? See problem as a challenge. Now you change the whole dynamic of it. You see problems as a challenge, and now it's more like you shouldn't be. It's not like you're blamed for that challenge. That challenge was there to make you see yourself, right? Because when we're in a posture of blaming, when we are in a posture of blaming other people, we don't see ourselves. When we're in a posture of blaming ourselves, we don't fully see ourselves, we don't fully grasp ourselves, right? When we recognize a challenge, when we recognize a situation for what it really truly is, right, in a neutral state, right, we the blame just drops. The blame doesn't exist. The blaming game doesn't exist. The blaming game disappears. Things are just the way it is. Things just are. It's for us to it's for us to see who we truly are. That we sometimes fail to see, and sometimes what we need to see in order for us to move forward in life. Thank you for making through this video.